Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I just wanted to hop on. My name is Nicole Evans, and I just wanted to hop on and let you know we're going to start in a few minutes here. We just recognize this is right after the lunch hour, and we know it might take people a few minutes to get on the line. So we appreciate your patience, and we'll be starting in 5 minutes or so. Thank you. I will let those of you who have joined us, thank you for coming today. We'll be kicking off here in a few minutes, but I do want to let you know the session is being recorded. And during the presentation portion of our meeting, all microphones will be muted, and then we'll have a system for you to raise your hand during the Q&A portion. So we will want to hear from you, but we're not quite ready to start, and we're waiting to make sure everybody has an opportunity to get on the line. So we're holding up until about 1:05. Thank you. Hi there, everybody. This is Nicole Evans. We're going to be getting started in just a few seconds here. We want to make sure people have an opportunity to get on the line. Oh, I think our screen, there we go. Have people to log in after lunch. We know that some folks might be rushing from having their lunch and getting online. So we'll be just starting in less than a minute. All right, it's 1:05. I thank you all for joining us today. Welcome to the second of 3 listening sessions hosted by CalHFA to talk about the California Dream for All program. My name is Nicole Evans, and I will be facilitating this session today. Thank you so much again for joining us. We want to make sure you have an opportunity to hear about the program, but really the point of this meeting is to hear from all of you. So after we give you a quick idea about how this virtual session is going to work, kind of the technical side of working this session, we're going to have the experts from CalHFA who've been working really hard on the early development of this program they're going to give you an overview of the program, the key requirements, and the implementation goals. And once that formal presentation is completed, we're going to hear from you, and that's going to be really the bulk of our session. But before we get into the details of the program, I just want to talk a little bit about how we're going to work this listening session here today. So we're going to go to the next slide. So again, I mentioned this before, if you got on earlier, this session is being recorded. We want to make sure everybody knows that. This recording and a transcript from it will be available on the CalHFA website a few days after this meeting. If you go to the website here at the bottom of your screen, www.calhfa.ca.gov/dream, you'll be able to find the recording. We are planning for a 90-minute session. Now, I have done a few of these for CalHFA. We don't always use the full amount of time, but we stay on the line for a full 90 minutes just in case somebody shows up late and wants to give their feedback. So we're committed to being here for 90 minutes today, which means we'll be concluding around 2:30. While we encourage you to raise your hand and provide your input today through the webinar, you can also, or alternately, provide your feedback via email or through a survey on the CalHFA website, again, going to the address at the bottom of your screen. If you want to do an email submission, you would send it to feedback@calhfa.ca.gov. We also want to make sure we know that, for instance, there might be questions about when there will be further developments in the implementation or the development of the program. And if you're looking for those updates, if you want to stay abreast of everything happening with the California Dream for All program, please sign up for the CalHFA e-newsletter, again, at the same website, and you'll get the latest information about the program. And then if you're having any technical trouble with this webinar, we want to, and you're having a hard time logging or listening or getting your hand up or anything else, you can visit calhfa.ca.gov/dream and get some help. I also want to, again, note for all of you that this is a program that is still being developed. And so the input you provide today will help inform the development of that program. And they really want to hear from you about home buyer needs. So again, you'll be muted during the presentation portion. And then when we go into public comment, that's when we'll unmute on a one-by-one basis to hear your feedback. So with following all that housekeeping information, I want to get started with our formal presentation here and go to our next slide and just give a little overview of how we got here. So recognizing that California has really high housing costs, leaders in the state have been working hard to address different aspects of our housing challenges in the state. And one way of addressing home affordability was when AB 140 passed that allowed the state treasurer's office to develop the framework for the California Dream for All program. And they worked with California Forward in developing a proposal, and that spurred the Senate President Pro Tem to propose a budget appropriation for funding this program, which happened this last May. It was passed through the state budget. Our governor has embraced it. And this summer, it resulted in a $500 million state budget investment in the program that was really widely embraced by our legislative leaders and the governor. CalHFA, or California Housing Finance Agency, is chartered as the state's affordable housing lender. And so the agency has been tasked with developing, implementing, and sustaining this really groundbreaking program. So with that little quick backgrounder, I want to turn over the vast majority of this presentation and all the good stuff to Ellen Martin, who's going to walk you through the program. And then when she concludes, I'll come back online and we'll take your input. Thank you. Ellen, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ellen Martin. I'm the Director of Business Development and Stakeholder Relations over here at CalHFA. So today I'll spend just a bit of time offering an overview of the California Dream for All program. We'll start with what a shared appreciation loan is, and then we'll move into some of the statutory requirements for the program and end with a brief overview of our goals as we implement the program. And then we'll open things up for to hear your comments and feedback. So to begin, the Dream for All program is a revolving shared appreciation loan program that provides loans for a down payment to qualified home buyers. So upon sale or transfer of the home buyer will repay the original down payment loan plus a share of the appreciation in the value of the home. So for example, if under the Dream for All program, CalHFA provides a shared appreciation loan that amounts to 20% of the home's purchase price, the borrower would then repay that 20% plus 20% of any appreciation in the value of the home, which means that the consumer effectively will retain 80% of the appreciation in the home's value. If we could go to the next slide, please. One back, actually. Thank you. So the typical features of a shared appreciation loan have many similarities to CalHFA's existing down payment assistance programs. Like our current down payment assistance programs, these loans typically are subordinate to the first mortgage. We anticipate that the shared appreciation loan will be used to provide down payment assistance as well as to fund closing costs, which again is just like our current down payment programs. And then finally, the loan comes due upon the sale, refinance, or transfer of the subject property, just like our current programs. One big difference that's really important to note with the shared appreciation loan is that the cost to the borrower is effectively variable. So just by way of comparison, our existing My Home Down Payment Assistance Program, which I know that many of you on this call are familiar with, charge a simple interest at a fixed rate of 1%. Under a shared appreciation loan structure, the effective interest rate on the loan would effectively be equal. There's no interest charged, but effectively, the interest rate will be equal to the average annual rate of real estate appreciation. So we know that over the long term, real estate appreciation averages about 4 to 5% annually. So that is the equivalent to the effective rate of interest on a shared appreciation loan. But what we do also know is that that rate can be extremely variable and spiky. So we saw real estate values plunge by about 35% in 2008. We saw real estate values spike by nearly 40% during the period from about 2019 to 2021. So obviously those two examples that I just cited are outliers that are attributable to the Great Financial Crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic, but they do serve to underscore how variable home price appreciation can be, which will no doubt have implications for Dream for All borrowers. So these anecdotes help us to kind of highlight some of the challenges with shared appreciation, which heretofore has not been widely used as an approach to expand access to home ownership at the scale that we're talking about here. California, as always, is certainly on the leading edge of innovation here, but we do want to acknowledge at the outset that this approach is unproven on a large scale. And so, as we're moving through this implementation process, it will be really important for us to be deliberate and to be thorough. And we're so glad to have the opportunity here today to hear from members of the public and other stakeholders whose input will really be critical to shaping this program and ensuring its success. Next slide, please. So as Nicole mentioned, the 2022-23 state budget established the Dream for All program, allocated $500 million to the program over a 2-year period, and designated the California Housing Finance Agency as the administrator of the program. The authorizing statute really sets broad parameters for the program, offering the following the specific requirements that are established on the slide. So those are that the Dream for All program must include a shared appreciation loan feature. The program's objective is to expand access to home ownership by helping low and moderate income home buyers purchase owner-occupied homes. The design of the loan product should not unreasonably impede wealth creation through homeownership for participating homebuyers. Next, the program should maximize the number of households assisted over time. So ensuring that the funds that we use to help one homeowner are then recycled as they're repaid to help future homeowners. And that's a really important tenet of this program that we'll probably be coming back to a lot. Also important, the shared appreciation loan must be paired with a CalHFA first mortgage. And finally, because shared appreciation loans are such a complex financial product, the program design has to include adequate consumer protections and disclosures that ensure that the consumer understands their loan. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next series of slides attempt to walk through how a shared appreciation loan program works, how the appreciation would be shared between the homeowner and the Dream for All Fund, how the proceeds from a sale are distributed, and then importantly, how the revenues from the shared appreciation loan product are recycled to help the next homeowner. So in this first chart, we are identifying a homeowner who's purchasing a $500,000 home with the assistance of a Dream for All shared appreciation loan that provides a 20% down payment in the amount of $100,000. And then that same homeowner is taking out a first mortgage in the amount of $400,000 to fund the rest of the purchase. Next slide, please. So fast forward 5 years, and we can assume that that home has gone up in value. In this hypothetical example, the home value is now $640,000. So that means that the value of the home has appreciated by $140,000. So who gets that appreciation? 80% of that appreciation would go to the homeowner. So that's about $112,000. 20% of that appreciation would be used to repay the Dream for All shared appreciation loan. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So here we're showing if the homeowner 5 years down the road decides to sell this home, how are the proceeds from the sale of that home distributed? So they're selling the home for its appreciated value of $640,000. The Dream for All loan payback amounts to $128,000, and that is inclusive of that original Dream for All loan amount that you see in kind of the first house over on the left, plus the Dream for All fund's share of the appreciated value of that home, so $28,000. So $128,000 is used to repay the Dream for All shared appreciation loan. There's also a first mortgage balance. In this example, we're estimating that the first mortgage balance after 5 years of principal and interest payments is about $370,000. And the remaining amount is homeowner equity. So the remaining amount in teal, the $142,000, is reflective of the wealth that that homeowner has generated through 5 years of ownership of this home. And this next little breakout box identifies what comprises that homeowner equity. So the first is what we've already talked about, the homeowner's share of appreciation, the $112,000 that is reflective of 80% of the value of the increase in value of that home. And the remaining $30,000 is reflective of first mortgage payments that have helped to pay down that first mortgage balance from the original first mortgage loan amount of $40,000 to that $370,000 that you see on the second house over here. So homeowner equity really comes from two sources. That's the appreciated value of the home, which is the lion's share of their equity here, and principal payments that they're making on the first mortgage for as long as they're holding that mortgage. Next slide, please. So this chart is attempting to sort of take that example where we have our first homeowner that purchases a home for $500,000, sells the home for $640,000, and illustrates how we're then using the Dream for All funds that were repaid upon the sale of that first home to make a new loan to the next home buyer. So over on the right, you have a second house valued commensurately at the price of the first home when it is sold. And we're using the Dream for All funds from the original house, from repayment of that original shared appreciation loan, to make a new loan amounting to a 20% down payment on a home that is priced commensurately. So let's go to the next slide, please. So with those statutory requirements and the structure of how a shared appreciation loan and program will work, we established a series of implementation goals that we're outlining on this final slide. So fundamentally, the goal of the program is to increase access to homeownership for low and moderate income Californians. Dream for All will do that by offering larger down payment assistance that helps our home buyers to compete in this highly competitive market. Relatedly, and also importantly, another goal of the program is to provide opportunities for wealth accumulation through homeownership. So that ability for a homeowner to grow their wealth through equity in their home. That's the $142,000 that we saw in that prior series of slides of homeowner equity that they are accumulating through paying the principal down and the appreciating value of the home. Next is minimizing financial risk to the consumer, to the state, and to the agency by building in all the necessary safeguards and features that can really help to blunt the effects of real estate market volatility and ensure that the consumers to whom we make these loans are financially equipped for the responsibility of homeownership. A key tenet, as I've underscored, of the Dream for All program is ensuring that funds are recycled, that those monies that are used to pay off shared appreciation loans come back into the fund, and that they're doing so at a rate that's sufficient to provide similar levels of assistance to future homebuyers. So it's important that we are bringing enough revenue back into the fund so that we can help the next homeowner with consideration to the fact that home prices have gone up. Again, we've talked about this, but because shared appreciation is a complex financial construct, we need to make sure that our consumers are fully educated about what they're signing up for, and that we also remain in contact with them for the entire term of the loan and are underscoring and reiterating what those rights, responsibilities, and obligations are under this loan product. And then finally, and most importantly, we need to design this program so that we can effectively operationalize it over the long term. I want to take just a moment to acknowledge right here at the outset of this program design process that there really are any number of kind of contradictions and conflicts that are inherent in the program objectives that I just outlined. So for example, we're trying to increase access to home ownership while we're also trying to minimize financial risk to the consumer, to the state, to the agency. But to the extent we increase access to home ownership, we need to be very careful that we don't increase the risk of defaults on the loans that we make. Similarly, this program is focused on increasing wealth, but we're also trying to ensure that the funds are recyclable. So there are certain provisions that might create additional equity for the home buyer, but those provisions could also result in reduced program revenues, or importantly, could limit our ability to sell these loans on the secondary market, thereby generating revenue that we can use to help future home buyers. So we want to acknowledge and state that we understand that there are many trade-offs to be made as we're establishing these program parameters, and we're absolutely committed to really thoughtfully balancing these competing objectives and making choices so that we're designing an effective and an efficient program. And that's a big part of why we are here today. We want to hear from you, and we certainly look forward to hearing from all of you about your thoughts with regard to the statutory requirements, the program objectives, and any trade-offs inherent in those objectives. So with that, I'd like to hand things back over to Nicole to introduce the public comment portion of today's call.
Thank you, Ellen. That was a great overview, really informative. I like the slides that kind of provided the visualization of how it all breaks down. So I think that's helpful. We've taken less than half an hour of our 90 minutes to give the overview, because we really wanted to dedicate the bulk of our time here to getting input from all of you. So as we move into our public comment portion of the session, I just wanted to make sure you all remember, again, like Ellen said, this plan is still in development. We want to hear your recommendations and your preferences, but we also want to make sure you know we are taking feedback via email and survey. Again, I just wanted to restate that not everybody's comfortable coming on screen or unmuting and sharing their feedback, and we don't want that to be a barrier for you providing input. So there are multiple ways people can weigh in here, and I think that's very important. So just for those of you who aren't familiar with this GoToWebinar technology, you'll see there's a picture of a little hand on your screen. If you raise your hand or click on that hand button, we'll know that you want to provide feedback. We have Courtney here who's going to run through the list of people who are offering their feedback, and we'll make sure everybody has the chance and the opportunity to weigh in here. Once she calls your name, please go to the microphone button and unmute yourself and provide your feedback. We're asking everybody to try to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, just so we have, so we can let everybody have that chance to speak. If you want to come back on more than once and we have the time and we've given everybody else an opportunity, that's an option as well. So, so we also have, on the next slide, oh yeah, we also would like you to provide your name and organization when you give your feedback. On this slide here, maybe some people aren't sure what input they want to provide. Here are some ideas that we're providing to you, some prompts that you can respond to, not mandatory to stick to them. You can say what you feel, but again, try to keep it directed to the development of this program, your comments, that would be most helpful. And please sign up for that e-newsletter. So I'm going to just go ahead and turn it over to Courtney here so we can take our first comment.
Okay, I see May Montana, you have your hand up. Your mic is now unmuted. Please go ahead with your question or comment.
Hi, thanks so much for having this. So I'm May Montana with Guaranteed Rate. This sounds like a great program. The CalHFA other programs make it difficult to refinance because you have to basically pay back the My Home or the ZIP. So it would be great if they would allow subordination without having to pay that back, which is typical of, say, San Francisco or AC Boost in Alameda County. So I would say that would be very key, particularly now rates are high. At some point within a year's time, depending on when this gets rolled out, your homeowner's probably going to want to refinance, but they won't be able to because they will definitely need to subordinate. And then the second thing is extensive training. You know, your typical CalHFA training they can do online, and what the number of hours is it 8 or 10 or something like that. The other shared depreciation loans that I administered in San Francisco or Alameda County, well, Alameda doesn't really do it, but San Francisco does. They have a very extensive training program, and they have a requirement afterwards to follow up with their counselor, so they're very involved. Because as a lender, having to explain the bank guidelines, and then on top of that, what shared depreciation is, and all the other guidelines, is pretty extensive when the homeowner has not been through that training up front. So like with AC Boost, it's a lottery process. So some of the people don't really understand anything. So you're kind of wasting a lot of people's time with the home buyer not understanding and then going through so many lenders and asking the same questions over and over again. So it's just, those are kind of the two key things that I was thinking about as you were kind of rolling that out. That's about it.
Thank you, Ray. That's really helpful. Thank you so much. I would make sure to note your feedback. Thank you. Let's go to our next caller.
Okay. Lisa Sitkin, you actually have your hand up, but I'm going to send you an audio pin, and please enter that audio pin into your keypad to activate your audio.
We have also an issue with our screen here for our person who's operating the slides. Thank you. That's fixed.
We did receive a written question that I'll go ahead and read for the group right now. As an example, with an annual gross income of $100,000, can a moderate income household afford a mortgage payment for a purchase price of $700,000? This is the average purchase price in my area.
I think what we're hoping for today is feedback. So if the individual who wrote in that question, I think that if you can help us frame that as a recommendation or feedback or input, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. That would be super helpful. I will say that the idea behind the Dream for All program is to help increase access to homeownership for low and moderate income individuals by providing larger down payment assistance. So by providing larger down payment assistance, we should be expanding the inventory of homes that homeowners at all income levels, at qualifying income levels, can access because they have that 20% down payment. So their first mortgage would be, underwritten basically based on 80% of the value of the home. And then also, once you have, if you have a down payment of 20%, you can avoid paying mortgage insurance, and that frees up additional monthly income to make a payment on the home, which increases what you can afford. But it would be great if we could hear from you about what your recommendations are in terms of how we can shape this program in a way that would help increase access in your area in particular.
Okay, we have our next question. It's from Jacob Lawrence. Your mic is unmuted. Please go ahead. Jacob Lawrence, if you're out there, your mic is unmuted and we're ready for your comment.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for everyone taking your time to come here for this program. It seems really amazing. One of the questions I have is there somewhere a place where one can go to see what are disqualifiers for this program? Kind of a check sheet or a guide placement that we can look upon so that, someone coming into this can say, okay, well, I don't meet credit score, or I don't meet a threshold of income, or these are disqualifiers initially, which can allow someone to position themselves is one question. The other question that I have is in regards to something that you touched upon, which is we're at the top of a housing bubble right now. We're watching prices begin to plummet because we're coming out of COVID, and we're watching people lose mortgages to banks and things, and we're watching a depreciative market, not an appreciative market, which is what we're talking about here, is coming together to create a collaboration between the state and the individual home buyer so that it's a win-win. You guys have a program that funds, it comes back, from what I understand. It helps you to do that. It's an 80-20 split. That seems very clear. But what do we do in the scenario right now where someone like myself would be hard pressed to, even though I'm looking at this from a first time home buyer perspective, I'm hard pressed to want to jump into a high level market that's going to immediately drop me into a depreciative market. So that's kind of the question number two. And then the third question that I have for you is wraparound programs, other things that we're looking at. We're talking CalHFA here, but I'm also looking at USDA grants, things like this that may fall into play that come into educational specs for the land and the property that I'm going on to that meet multiple goals for the state of California outside of just per se the Dream for All program. And those are my three initial questions I have for you.
Okay, Nicole, I can take a couple of those. So we have not yet developed a term sheet for this program. That's part of the purpose of today's stakeholder listening session, is to hear from the public and hear what your thoughts are with regard to elements that would ultimately inform a term sheet. But that term sheet will be available once the program is established. And we recommend that folks who are looking to pursue use of a Dream for All shared appreciation loan work with one of our qualified lenders who can help navigate them through the process and identify the eligibility and as well as some of the disqualifiers that you talked about. But we will have robust education and information regarding eligibility posted, and then a very well-trained lender network who can work directly with the consumers on that front. I understand your concern about a potentially depreciating market. That's certainly top of mind for us. You know, I will say, basically from a consumer perspective, if there's no appreciation for the program to share in, then if there's no appreciation in the value of the home, there's no appreciation for the program to share in. But it certainly is something that we have to keep in mind, and that's sort of part of the variability of the real estate market that has to be top of mind as we're designing these program parameters. So we'd certainly welcome thoughts on, you know, how you think the program should address a depreciating scenario. In terms of wraparound programs, for most of our programs, they can be paired with other sources of down payment assistance, dependent, of course, on the terms of on the ultimate and final terms of the program, with, you know, factors like combined loan to value, minimums and maximums, and what those wind up being. Those would be the only parameters that might create any sort of issues with using wraparound programs. So again, I would love any input that you have with regard to what types of wraparound programs you see working best with a shared appreciation loan, or you see as most likely that we need to give particular consideration to as we're establishing the terms of the program. Thank you for the question. Great questions.
Okay, we're going to move on to our caller, David Cade. Your mic is unmuted. Please go ahead with your feedback or comment.
Hi, David, are you still there?
Yeah,
There
sorry. Yeah, thank you for the presentation today. It's really interesting to learn about your programs at CalHFA. I'm the director of the Dry Creek Rancheria Housing Department, and we have a homebuyer assistance program that's pretty active. We use ICAVG funds. We've helped over 30 tribal members buy their first homes in the last 10 years. I wanted to see if you could tell us if this might work with another program that's providing subsidy for DPA or buy down. I wanted to ask about Section 184, and if that's something that CalHFA's loan program would support, a 184 loan. Also, VA and USDA loans are sometimes used by our members. And then another question I had was, in California, we have natives living on fee land, but we also have natives living on trust land and allotment land, which is individual trust. And I wanted to ask if the program would fund housing on trust land. I think that my follow-up question to that would be, how would that work when trust land properties aren't on an open market? So there's really no shared appreciation. Thank you.
Okay, those are great questions, and I can start answering some of those. So in terms of other programs that provide down payment assistance, to the extent that they're providing a down payment assistance loan, we don't anticipate that being any problem in terms of combining that with the down payment assistance that the Dream for All program would provide. You had a second question, which I'm so sorry, but I think I didn't note it quite right. Nicole, do you recall what the second part of that question was? Or can you perhaps repeat?
Yeah, I'm going to have to back up the notes. I did ask about working with Section 184.
Thank you. Yes. So unfortunately, these shared appreciation loans only work with conventional Fannie and Freddie loans. They are not allowed under FHA loans, so they cannot work with Section 184 loans. And then with regard to your question on fee land versus allotment land and trust land, I think that one, I'm going to ask you to give us a little bit of time to get back to you. I really appreciate that feedback. And if you can give us any additional details about issues you see, either today or either via email, we'd really appreciate understanding how, what barriers there might be for the tribal communities to participate in this program, given the dynamics that you outlined, such as, the properties on trust land not really being sold on open market, and so that creates a potential issue with appreciation. I think that's really important feedback that we need to think about and take note of.
Yeah, thank you. There are over 100 tribes in California that do various approaches, take various approaches to home ownership. I would also just like to make one suggestion, is that there would be a listening session for tribes and tribal designated housing entities.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so glad you said that. We do have a listening session with the tribal housing focus scheduled for next Tuesday at 1 p.m. So we're certainly looking forward to hearing more from our tribal community partners with regard to their feedback to how this program can be structured best to serve those communities.
Okay, I'll try to join that one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the comments and the questions. I think Nicole might be frozen, so I can try to step in for Nicole.
Yeah, can you hear me? I think I'm back, but I don't know if my camera will go on.
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay. Well, I am here. It's just the voice of Nicole, I guess. We would like to hear from all of you. Oh, look, I'm back. I would like to hear from all of you. Please, consider these prompts, and I will say in particular, these are areas that CalHFA is hoping to get feedback and input on. So these matter. And if you have ideas or thoughts, we're going to be here till 2:30. So we'd like to hear from you.
Okay. Nicole, we do have another caller, Lisa Sitkin. Thank you for your patience. Your mic is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is Lisa Sitkin from the National Housing Law Project. And I guess I have a couple thoughts, sort of related questions probably. One just has to do with, and I'm sorry, I was juggling with my phone, so if you sort of address this with the person who talked about depreciation, let me know. But I do have a concern about, when we're talking about, you mentioned market volatility, and, when we're talking about times like we've seen lately where the appreciation is sort of stratospheric, whether there is room statutorily for you to build in some kind of cap. It just seems to me that at a certain point it becomes, just feels like such a windfall for the state or for any investors. I do have a question about the secondary market, but so I'm interested in knowing if there's a way to design things so that there's some break that can be put on, so that if something has appreciated, has doubled in price or something, that it's not, going to be effectively like a 20% rate on that loan. So that's one question. The other has to do with, you mentioned about selling these into the secondary market, which, having worked with homeowners throughout the foreclosure crisis and working with advocates for homeowners now in the pandemic, a lot of the problems that we encounter when things go, when delinquencies are up and people are struggling, have precisely to do with the secondary market. If we're talking about, I don't know what that secondary market looks like for a loan like this, so I'm curious, but I, I guess I would want you to be very cautious about how you use that tool. I mean, I understand it's a way of recycling money also, but the dangers inherent in kind of losing a certain level of control, I think have to be taken very seriously. And I would worry when homeowners are struggling that you carefully think through those scenarios so that there's room for them to navigate, sort of difficult waters.
Lisa, thank you. Thank you for both of those points. I think that this is the important feedback that we need right at this point. I don't know. Ellen didn't come on the line, which tells me that this is the feedback they need to hear, and it's really helpful. And they don't have answers to these at this point. I would think it's part of the development process. So I don't know if I'm over speaking there, Ellen.
No, I would absolutely just echo what you have to say, Nicole. Lisa, thank you so much for your feedback. I think you're hitting the nail on the head as far as really important topics that we're thinking about, and we really appreciate your feedback and your thoughts on these items.
Do you know if the statute does constrain you in terms of putting a cap in place? I mean, is it the statute that says outright it has to be a 20% to 20%? It has to match
No, the statute is fairly broad in the parameters that it established for the program. It's actually what I outlined in the presentation is pretty much what the statute says. So you can see it's pretty broad, and it has mostly to do with kind of goals and objectives, and a few very specific kind of statutory requirements. So no, there's no prohibition on placing a cap on the amount of appreciation that the program can receive.
Okay. I'm going to toss in one tiny thing. I know I'm probably over 3 minutes, but I would just also encourage you to think about how this lines up in terms of giving people the opportunity of home ownership, but with some constraints attached, how this lines up with community land trust opportunities and with municipal deed restriction kind of BMR programs like San Francisco has. I'm sure many other, I'm just familiar with that one, but I think it will be useful to think about those other options that actually cut into people's, equity growth as well, and make sure that you're kind of doing better than those, I guess.
All right. Yes, thank you. And I appreciate those comments as well.
Thanks.
Okay. Our next caller is Edward Lester. Your mic is unmuted. Please go ahead with your feedback or comment.
Hi, Edward.
Edward, you have to unmute your mic.
Can you hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear me now?
we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm calling from I3 Lending. Hello to all my friends in California. I'm calling you from New York, but we do a lot of business in California. And so I really was getting on this call because I thought it was an explanation for the other program you have, for the 3.5% down payment assistance program. But I guess my same question is for this program as well. For this program, I never knew you had it until 5 minutes ago, or you're going to be considering it. So it's very nice. My question is, when do you think you're going to start it? And the second question is, how do we get set up to participate and with the existing programs? And how do we need to do an application with you? And because we have current people in contract now looking for a down payment assistance program, and frankly, it's rather difficult to navigate your website. It's kind of confusing, and we'd like to help our current customers, and we'd like to also apply because we would be brokering out these deals, but we also are a lender in California, so we'd like to be able to initiate the first mortgages associated with your second mortgages that you're suggesting here. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that comment, and so glad that you were able to join this call and learn something new that you didn't know you were going to learn about. In terms of time to market, we are still early in the design process for this program, so I can't give you specifics about when we expect it to be available on the streets, but I can tell you that we should have more information on that in the coming weeks, and I would absolutely encourage you to sign up for our e-news updates so you can get updates on program timelines and other important announcements. You can sign up for those at www.calhfa.ca.gov/dream. And then I wonder if my colleague Cheryl Angst might be able to come on to talk a little bit about the process of qualifying new lenders and where you can tap into our staff to research and look into that process. Cheryl, are you online?
I am here. Hi, good morning, good afternoon. I can walk you through our website really easily to get you to that section, but in order to become approved, you have to be approved with both CalHFA and our master servicer, Lakeview Loan Servicing. So it is a two-tiered approval process. The application for CalHFA is online. It is fairly easy, in my opinion. And you do have to be Fannie Mae approved. But it is on there. It's on our website, www.calhfa.ca.gov. If you go to the lender and realtor section, and then you go to direct lender section, it will have the question how to become a CalHFA approved lender. And all the forms are there, including examples. So that should walk you through that.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. And thank you so much for the question.
Ellen, we don't have any hands up right now, but we have received a few written questions, and I'll go ahead and read the first one. Can a family exceed the 80% area median income based on family size?
So the income, this is one of the program design parameters that we will be evaluating as we're developing our recommended program. I will say our current My Home down payment assistance programs are available to low and moderate income potential home buyers, first-time home buyers earning up to 150% of the area median income. We have other programs that are targeted at 80% AMI, but this is one of the things that we're looking at as part of the program design process. So William, I would absolutely invite your thoughts on what we should be targeting with regard to where those income limits should be set.
Okay, moving on to the next question. What is your time frame for when this loan will be available to residents? I know you're kind of figuring it out, but is there any kind of estimate?
Yeah, so again, we're still in the early design process. This stakeholder listening session and the prior stakeholder listening session and the one that we'll have next week, I think will help us to fine tune the program design. And so we welcome your feedback. Also, just as a reminder, we have the survey tool and the feedback email that we would love it if folks could use to help us sort of fine tune what we are proposing. I don't have a time frame for the actual rollout of the program as of yet. I'm hoping to soon once we have the opportunity to get some direction from our board. And I would encourage everybody to sign up for those e-news updates at calhfa.ca.gov/dream so that you can be kept apprised of those milestones and developments.
Okay, we're moving on to Jacob Lawrence, who has his hand up. Your mic is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'd asked some questions earlier and ultimately stemmed up some new questions. I'm looking at this kind of in a duality, one being for myself personally, but over the last 7 years, my family has poured our life into building our nonprofit. And part of that is we do opportunity housing and veteran wellness programs and a lot of community development programs. Now, we're in a rural area of California in Mendocino County. Do you guys see having any kind of direct work with county or sub-regions and ways that we might be able to work together? So as we find value in this per se, and I have veterans looking for long-term housing, or if we're working for with young adults transferring out of the foster care system type things, you know, these are some of the things we're going to be looking at. That's why I asked about wraparound services as well earlier. But is there kind of a way that you guys are going to subsect different areas from rural to cities, you know, county to county, things of that nature?
Yeah, Jacob, thank you so much for the question. Really appreciate that. Absolutely, we will have a very robust marketing and outreach program. I would love it if you would send us you know, your contact information to our feedback email, because we certainly do want to make sure that this program is available to those communities that you're talking about and you're describing. And we'd certainly love any and all opportunities to partner with folks that are working with those communities to make sure that they are aware of and able to access a program like this, which I think can really be transformational for those folks.
Wonderful. Well, I just actually put in the direct message box my direct email address to our nonprofit. And like I said, this is a big part of our hope, is looking at that long-term housing options for these individuals and to be able to plug in. So when we start at a state level, I already work with our county. I already work with the state of California differently through the Department of Industrial Relations and the apprenticeable standards. So there's a lot of different things that I'm looking at here. And so as we started talking, my original question earlier, I got the phone number. And then just a side thing, if Lisa's still on the phone, I would love to reach out to you and learn more about this National Housing Law Project as well that you guys are a part of, because I think that we can find amongst our set group here ways to correlate and to create mutual benefit.
Nicole, that's great. Thank you so much, Jacob. Nicole, it looks like you're back up and running, so I'll scooch back here.
Thanks. Thank you, Ellen.
We are going to move on to Matthew Rosen. You have your hand up. Your mic is unmuted. Please go ahead. You'll have to unmute.
Matthew,
Yes,
can
hi,
you
this is-
unmute? Oh, good.
Yes, I
good.
think I have. Thank you. I was just interested in I'm wondering how you all thought this program might actually fit with the traditional habitat model of selling homes. And, you know, it seems like on its face, it wouldn't be a good fit, but I'm interested in your sort of creative ideas about how habitat affiliates who are building affordable homes around the state might be able to take advantage of this program.
I would say, Matthew, I'll jump in here. I would say what would be really helpful is, it sounds like you have some real on the ground experience with habitat. And so maybe if you can think about offering some feedback and input to CalHFA about how you could see this program aligning with your work at Habitat and building the homes for people, that would be really helpful as they look at developing this program.
That would be great. And I think, you know, for us, the big barrier is that most of us are originating our own loans, where we are lenders. We're not going through conventional lending institutions, and we're not using CalHFA mortgages. So that seems like an obvious barrier. And I don't know what the solution might be around that, but I'm interested in exploring more about that. I'm wondering what you think. There might be ways around that.
Well, maybe if you want to send your comment and information to that email address, if as the folks dig deeper into program development, they might it'll be helpful for them to have your information and your thoughts about kind of what those barriers are. and how that might just generally that might be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any hands up at this time, so we do have a few questions, and I'll go ahead and read one of them. If the shared appreciation loan program is combined with another subsidy loan, such as a CDBG DPA loan program, would the 20% DPA from this program still apply, or would it be lowered?
So this session is perfectly structured to answer all of these questions, so it's really helpful to think about if you, as you know, I'm sure you're processing all that you've heard today, and maybe you won't be able to frame it here on the spot today as input, but think about how your question could be offered as input to the program, to think about the program development and this concern that you have related to those kinds of programs and loans. And then you can also take your time and submit that. Think about it for a while. If you again, don't have to do it right here on the spot. You can do it through the email address feedback@calhfa.ca.gov.
I can go ahead and read another question.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney.
Okay, this is a much needed program. I did a lot of county and city loans with this type of program, and it helped my clients so much. I may have missed it, but can they also refi in the future and pay off the loan and shared appreciation, or only sale of the home?
I do believe that refi is included into the full scope of the program. So it would be the shared appreciation would be paid at the time you refinance or sell the home or transfer the title, I believe. And if I'm wrong, that's right. So that's the current thinking.
Okay, and we have one more question. Sorry, I didn't understand if the shared equity loan would have an interest rate and how that interest rate would be paid, or only the 20% appreciation would be owed by the borrower.
It would only be the appreciation. So there's technically no interest rate associated with the loan. The loan would be paid back based on the original loan amount plus the program's share of the appreciated value of the home.
And at this time, we don't have any questions or hands raised.
Thank you, Courtney. Oh, go ahead.
We do have a hand raised. Olga Jordan, please unmute your mic and go ahead with your comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Olga.
Wonderful. I think it's a great program. I really think that it would open up a lot of opportunities for people that are desperate in wanting to move away from renting into becoming homeowners. However, I'm in LA, and you can just imagine the struggles that I go through, and it's a little bit devastating and heartbreaking when I get my customers all pumped up and ready to go, especially right now with the great program that we have with the equity share program, or the forgivable equity, 10% down. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty of qualifying them, we can't qualify them because they are over the median income. One individual won't qualify on their own, but if the minute we add the second person, they're automatically disqualified because the combined income automatically puts them over the area median income. So my suggestion, I think it's a great program. I think this program and the other one, the 10% down, they're excellent. But I think that the CalHFA, or the housing agency, is causing a disservice to not only the program in itself, but also to consumers in limiting them with having that restriction of the 80% LMI restriction. So my recommendation would be to just open up the gates to doing it just the way it's done with the other programs, with the 150%, or maybe not 150%, but maybe going to 130% of the area median income percentage, and not keeping it to 80. Because if you're keeping it at 80, I mean, it's very frustrating. It really is, when you get someone all hyped up about the program and they're excited, and yet then we're like, but here we're stumbled, we just can't really do much. And housing pricings here in LA, they're just, I mean, you can just imagine. So my recommendation is just that, however you have it structured right now, 20% appreciation with no interest, I think it's great. Keeping it simple, it's just phenomenal. And I'd see how the agency can benefit from yes, I understand we're in a market appreciation and possibly will slow down the growth of appreciation, but at the same time though, if people want to sell, the agency will profit on whatever appreciation is made. But so in general though, I think it's a great program, but just really focus on removing the restrictions of the average or the income limitations.
Thank you, Olga. That's helpful. I appreciate you framing that as input and feedback and understanding that concern that you have. So thank you very much.
We don't have any hands up, but we have received a few more questions, so I'll go ahead. I wonder if the shared appreciation part will be considered cash out for refinance purposes.
That is something, thank you for raising that issue, and that's something I'm sure that the team will look into and investigate as they develop the program. So it's helpful to have issues like that raised.
Okay, next question. If the borrower decided to refinance the first mortgage to get a better rate, will the second shared loan be subordinated or must it be paid off? Will the program give the subordination option?
So I think, again, I appreciate all of these questions, and I think we can interpret some of these questions as raising issues, concerns, and which is really helpful. There aren't really answers at this point in the game, so I think it's really important. So if you think about when you're submitting comments to the website or through this chat or through the email, it's really helpful if you want to either raise a concern, a barrier, and even best, a recommendation to us or input to us. Really, really, really helpful. So we can't answer the questions necessarily through this forum. This is kind of an intake forum for CalHFA to consider issues. So really the answers don't exist yet because the program is still in development for the most part. So that's really important for folks to realize here today. I want to make sure, because I don't want people feeling and hoping that they were going to receive answers to all of their questions today. Really, today is the opportunity to get your input so it can inform the development of a plan for CalHFA, and that's what we're really hoping to get. And like I said, we're interpreting all of these questions. So when we get questions like this, we're going to interpret them as areas of concern or issues raised, and we appreciate that.
And we have one last question in the queue at this time. Can this program be calculated to a 40-year loan to make the monthly payment more affordable?
Okay, so it sounds like a recommendation to calculate it as a 40-year loan to make the payment more affordable. I'm going to phrase that as a recommendation. I hope that's the right interpretation. And that's what we'll note here. So thank you. And again, we have the prompts where we want to hear your thoughts about some particular areas. I don't know if we can put that slide back up. Oh, here we go. The trade-offs. So really, it's really, and I think this has come up in some of your comments. This is really a pay it forward kind of a program where, the 20, and I want to make sure, because somebody used the term profit for the agency earlier, and I just want to be clear. The agency isn't looking to make a profit. They would take that equity, that share of equity that's paid out at the end of the loan, and they would move that to another homeowner to make that home ownership dream come true for them as well. So it's really a pay it forward kind of a model that they're looking at, and it's not necessarily money to come back to the agency. I think that's really important clarification. And so it's these trade-offs of making sure that the fund can be sustainable and in place for future homeowners, but at the same time protecting equity for that homeowner who worked really hard to pay that full loan. So all of these trade-offs, we'd like to get your feedback and your take on the trade-offs. Look at the strengths of a shared appreciation program. What works really well through shared appreciation, California would be doing this on a very large scale. So we'd like to look at that, as well as the barriers, some of the barriers you've raised here today, if you have others, and how we can not only just know what those barriers are, but how do we overcome those barriers. And then finally, again, the marketing and outreach, as Ellen said, is really an important part. Consumer education and making sure people understand is really important. So, so we'd love your feedback on that. So it sounds like we might have, or it looks like we might have another hand raised.
That's right. Lisa, please unmute your mic and go ahead with your comment.
Hi, it's me, Lisa Sitkin again. I'm back. So the other thing I wanted to raise was just the issue of equity. And, I think when we talk about the homeownership gap and wealth gaps, it really tends to break along racial lines in particular and ethnic lines. And I know there are always tensions and constraints about sort of how targeted and explicit, a government agency can be about, who it's trying to reach. But one way or another, I really would implore you to have a particular focus on Black homeownership in California. It is woefully lagging for many, many reasons we all know a lot about. And this, could be a very helpful tool in trying to narrow that gap. And I think it also relates to that last point on your list, Nicole, about the outreach and marketing. I think that there's always a sort of general, understanding and assumption and agreement that, we should be marketing to all kinds of different groups and communities and everything. But I find in a lot of the implementation of programs like this or other assistance programs that often that doesn't get up and going at the same pace. Like a program will sort of come out and that will be kind of lag behind. That would really concern me because even though these are recycled funds, presumably there's going to be some time at which, it'll kind of, the pot will be low and there will be a waiting period and everything. And I just really encourage you to be very proactive and very sort of micro targeted in terms of, really partnering with local groups, church groups and other kinds of community groups, housing counseling agencies, all of those and more, to make sure that everyone sort of has the opportunity as soon as this is available to them, and that you're really thinking through who's hearing about it sooner rather than later.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you. These are all it's really good and important feedback. So we'll take all of that. Thank you.
And Nicole, at this time, we don't have any hands raised or any questions that have been received that haven't been read.
All right, thank you, Courtney. Well, we still have 15 minutes left in our session. If you have any, you think of anything additional you wanted to raise or you had been thinking about raising, now's the time, but it's not the only time. So please also remember that you can provide feedback to us later after you've had a chance to process and think about this discussion here today. And you can send that via email to feedback@calhfa.ca.gov. Also, please visit the specific page on the CalHFA website for this program, calhfa.ca.gov/dream. And we'll also have a survey tool as well for you to provide feedback that way. So we're, going through and offering feedback 3 different ways. And again, we do have that third and final public listening session scheduled for September 20th for next week. And that's another opportunity to come back if there's something that you missed today. So we really wanted to make sure that that folks had an opportunity to weigh in this early stage. And I do want to say the e-news tool is really a helpful way for you to easily just get the latest updates delivered straight to your inbox as they happen in real time. I know this session and the prior session, a lot of people, and we anticipated a lot of people would want to know the timeline. And while there is no set timeline quite yet, everybody's working hard and fast as quickly as they can, but they want to be thoughtful in the development. But things like timeline and when more detail is coming forward related to the program, the way you'll know when that's happening in real time is by signing up for the e-news and getting that newsletter update. And just as a reminder as well, while we're sitting here waiting and chatting, we will have this recording and transcription of this recording available on the CalHFA Dream website as well in a few days. I don't have the exact timeline for you, but in a few days you could even come back and review this webinar if you'd like to. Again, at calhfa.ca.gov/dream. There have been a lot. Oh, great. Do we have somebody, Courtney?
Can you confirm which day the tribal listening session will be? The link is saying September 20th, but the registration page.
Yeah, there was some confusion, but it's September 20th, and I have to pull the exact time. Somebody here will probably text me, but it is set for September 20th. And again, you can find all of that information and register for the webinar on this website, calhfa.ca.gov/dream. And that is with a focus on our Native American population, but that it's not exclusive to.
Okay, we've received another written question or comment. I had understood the program would serve up to 150% AMI. When did they change that to 80%?
As presented by Ellen earlier today, they are looking, I believe, Ellen will tell me if I'm wrong, but 150% AMI is what they're looking at.
Yes, so our existing programs, our existing My Home down payment assistance program serves communities or serves homeowners up to 150% AMI. We do have an existing program that was mentioned, the Forgivable Equity Builder Loan, which is targeted at lower income first-time home buyers earning up to 80% AMI. So we welcome comments about sort of where we should be targeting the down payment assistance in terms of income levels. The prevailing thought is that we would be providing larger down payment assistance to a broader spectrum of homeowners, likely reaching up into that moderate income bracket at 150% AMI.
Okay, and we received another comment. Bottom line, let's develop a program that works with real life scenarios. Let's make sure that the people are able to purchase with their incomes and liabilities and the existing sale prices in California. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a couple people that would like to comment. Olga,
Great.
Please go ahead with your comment and unmute your mic when you're ready.
Hi, Olga, are you off mute?
I'm off of mute, yeah. I'm glad that you're inclining into moving towards the 150% LMI.
Olga, I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's just me, but oh, your microphone's a little faint.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So I'm really glad to hear that you're inclining into moving the income limits towards the 150% LMI. I think that would open up the gateway to a lot much broader, and that's wonderful. But my other question is, especially with property taxes, will the, and that's, it's just a thought, will the customer be responsible for the full 100% of the property taxes due on the property, and the agency not, taking over 20%, or will the agency take 20%? It's just a thought. I mean, a question, just to be clear, and that's something that needs to be fully disclosed to borrowers to make them understand that they would be fully responsible for 100% property taxes or 80% of the property taxes.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's my understanding that the home buyer would be responsible for 100% of the property tax, but we will make sure that that is clear and included as part of our home buyer education. That's a great point. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to Jacob. Please unmute your mic and go ahead with your comment when you're ready.
Yeah, you were talking about the forgivable equity loan, and is this kind of like a precursor to this new program, if you will? Is this going to be like one that falls away, or as one people are waiting, would you recommend like looking at the forgivable equity loan, or is that something and then all of a sudden the Dream for All comes out and then they would look at that? How does one affect the other?
Jacob,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I can answer that. So that's a great question. They're two separate programs. The Forgivable Equity Builder Loan offers a 10% down payment assistance that is a 0% interest loan that is forgiven over a 5-year period. That program is funded by a one-time allocation of general fund revenues in the amount of $88 million. So once those funds are exhausted, then the Forgivable Equity Builder Loan will no longer be available. So I would absolutely suggest, as somebody's looking at their down payment assistance options, that you look at the Forgivable Equity Builder Loan, because you're absolutely correct. That's a that's a one-time source of funding that is separate and apart from the Dream for All program.
And at this time, we do not have any hands up or any questions.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. We do have about 7 minutes left on this session today. We usually try to, or actually we do stick to our 90-minute game plan. Like I said, we have one more 90-minute session coming up here on September 20th at 1 to 2:30 p.m., just the same time as we have for this session today. We'll run through, it'll be very similar to this one where Ellen will give the same presentation she gave today. I think she'll be doing it in her sleep after that one. And again, there are many opportunities for you to weigh and provide feedback, and we appreciate all the input that we receive from each person. It will really be important as they dig into the details and further flesh out the program and then start implementation. I will say, though, that this session has been really great, and we've probably had more engagement on this one than we had on our first session. So that's always much appreciated. It makes it so I'm not sitting here with that time, and I appreciate that personally.
I'll just echo those comments. I've really appreciated and enjoyed the engagement from you all today, and I think you guys are asking all the right questions and providing input that is super helpful to us at CalHFA as we're putting these program design parameters together. And I would just encourage you to keep it coming. Send us emails, take the survey, let us know your thoughts. And also, I would encourage you to remain engaged in the process as we move forward into implementation. One of the things that is, I think, most impressive about CalHFA as a state agency is the agency's ability to pivot and be agile and respond to changes in the market. It's kind of, as an affordable housing lender, it's what we have to do. It's what we do all the time. So we will invite you to continue to provide your feedback and your input even as we move into implementation, because we want to hear from you now and we want to continue to hear from you. So again, just thank you so much for all your participation and engagement. It's been great.
So your last 4 minutes. So it's not really your last chance, though. It's just the last 4 minutes of the session. Hopefully the presentation Ellen provided at the beginning too, hopefully did provide that broader perspective of the framework that they're working under.
Yeah, and we welcome any questions or feedback based on that presentation as well. In particular, the description of the shared appreciation loan structure and how that works. I know there was some confusion on that at the last listening session, so we're hoping that that provided a little bit of additional clarity with regards to how that works.
We're down to our last 3 minutes, but I'll be here with you the full 3 minutes. So looks like a lot of you have stayed with us and we really appreciate that. And I will say for Jacob and for any others, CalHFA has a robust suite of offerings on there to California homeowners, and especially for first-time home buyers. And we encourage you, if you know, beyond the California Dream for All, you might want to go to their website and explore the other programs that exist as well for home buyers, because it's not one size fits all here. It's, you know, you've got to find the right thing that meets the needs for different people. Again, as we head into our last few minutes, please be sure you note the email address as well as the web address if you haven't already. You can take an easy screenshot from your computer and then as well sign up for that e-newsletter. I know I've been pushing it pretty hard today, but it is really the best way to stay up to date. It's, you know, it's hard to go back and check a website all the time and wait and refresh to see if anything new. You don't need to do that if you sign up for the e-news. It'll just be delivered right to you, all the latest, greatest breaking information. We will have this recording posted in a few days on the CalHFA Dream website, and a transcript. We'll have all 3 sessions eventually posted on that website. The folks can go back and listen and review at their leisure. And we are recording all of your feedback, noting every bit, either if it's given here in our live webinars, if it's provided via email or through the survey instrument. We record all of it. But we know that everybody is busy. You have a lot of demands on your time. but it shows your commitment to helping people achieve the dream of home ownership by just coming today and by participating in the session. And we really, again, appreciate your engagement, your thoughts, your perspectives, and want to hear from you if you have additional feedback along the way. And as Ellen said, it doesn't have to just be limited to this early implementation stage. You can provide feedback throughout the process, and I think that's really important. Want to be responsive to the needs of California home buyers or future home buyers even. So with that, it's 2:30. Our time has come.
We just have one last question. Can this program be calculated to a 40-year loan to make the monthly payment more affordable?
Yeah, thank you. We received that question and we're taking that as a recommendation or request for that to be considered. We don't have an answer to that question today. We're really looking for input and then just stay tuned to the details of the program. So thank you for that input. And thank you everybody for all of your input. Thanks for your time today. I know you probably have other things you need to do. So we're gonna wrap up here and we'll be back again, as I said, on September 20th. Have a great afternoon and have a nice weekend. Thank you.